Testing, 1, 2, testing.
It's being filmed also. One beautiful thing I've learned about this church is how much y'all love each other. Bottom line is, We should have started about 3 minutes ago, but people like to visit, and so we're going to start about 3 minutes after we should have, and that's kind of the way this church likes it, I think. So let's have a quick prayer. Dear Father, be with us this day. Guide our words, guide our hearts, and dear Father, help us as we come before you prayerfully and intently. Touch us by the power of your Holy Spirit and help us simply to hear your voice and to do your will. For this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. And here you are.
Yes. All right. How are y'all? Good. Awesome. So they nominated me to go over the ground rules with y'all. I'm not sure why I got that. Maybe it was so that I read them. You have a... I'm not much of a rule follower if you know me. Rule number 1 is silence your cell phones. So if you haven't done that, you have a list, you have a copy of them on your sheet as well. So we want to make sure that we speak kindly, disagree gently, and love unconditionally, which is something I think Pastor Paul has been saying repetitively here lately. And you can use that one outside of this meeting as well. Silence your cell phones if you haven't. Be patient and don't interrupt others. Make sure you have an open heart. Respect each other's differing thoughts and opinions. And hold all questions until the Q&A has opened. And just so you know, this isn't a place or a time really to have arguments. If someone has a difference of opinion as you, that's something we can do at a later time. It's just gathering information and stating somewhat of how you feel to some degree. With that being said, to kind of gauge where our congregation is, we're going to do a straw poll. Bridget's going to come around and help hand those out, just to kind of go over what those are. This is not your vote by any means. This is just us, once again, to gauge where we are. So there's 4 different marks you can make. I'm leaning towards disaffiliating from the UMC or United Methodist Church. I'm leaning towards staying with United Methodist Church. I'm undecided, or I'd like more information, and then there's a place for you to put in your email address and any questions you might have that you would like answered. There's a ballot box right in the back to your right, or a basket. So if you cut out early or happen to leave to, you got what you needed or whatever, or you have something you need to go do, make sure you fold them 2 or 3 times and place them in the ballot box so we can get a total on all those good things. Are there any questions about the straw poll ballot? Anybody confused on what each one of those means? No? Pretty simple? All right. And then I think Philip has a video that he's going to play. This is from the bishop, and so he's going to, I think, explain some of the process. I watched a little bit of it earlier, but we'll watch that and then answer some questions about it and have a presentation.
Thank you, and let me add my welcome to you all and say thank you for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon to be more informed and to understand what's going on in the life of our church. I also want to say thank you to the people of Marvin United Methodist Church for hosting us this afternoon. You've turned the air conditioning on, and that's a good thing. There's a crowd here today. Friends, our denomination is facing a very difficult time, and it's breaking my heart. When I became a bishop 18 years ago, I was very excited about helping each of our local churches become stronger, starting new local churches, reaching unchurched people for Christ, and addressing important social justice issues in our communities. Unfortunately, because of national developments in the life of our church, we now have to give our attention to other matters. The immediate cause of this church split that we're facing is the disobedience of jurisdictional conferences, annual conferences, bishops, and clergy. This controversy about human sexuality has been going on for 50 years, but it's accelerated since the Supreme Court decision legalizing same-gender marriage, and then a special session of the General Conference in 2019. Our church is bound together by a covenant of respect for the Book of Discipline. That covenant has been broken. We're undergoing a split. and local churches now have the opportunity to decide about their future alignment. To help you understand what's going on and what your situation is, I want to address 5 questions. First, do you have to make a decision? The answer is no. You do not have to deal with this matter. You don't have to go through a discernment process. You can leave here today and say, we're not going to talk about this. And that's okay. However, we want you as leaders, lay and clergy, to be aware of developments in the life of our denomination because, frankly, not to decide is to decide. If you end up doing nothing, you are casting your lot with the United Methodist Church and whatever happens to it over the next several years. On the other hand, considering disaffiliation requires a discernment process that's sometimes difficult and might be controversial in the life of your church, and part of what we're doing today is describing that process and helping you understand what's involved with it. Second, what's the timetable? Well, to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church requires a process. We'll be talking about that. The end of the process is approval by the annual conference. It requires a vote at the annual conference for each church that wants to disaffiliate. The window for that is pretty clear. One option is that churches who have finished the process can disaffiliate and have approval on December 3rd. As bishop, I've called a special session of the Texas Annual Conference. It will meet December 3rd. Actually, I technically haven't called it yet. I've issued a save the date notice, put it that way. But we will be meeting in person at the West Chase campus of First United Methodist Church in Houston on the morning of December 3rd at 9 a.m. Churches that have finished the disaffiliation process in a timely way can have their approval granted then. The second option is during the regular session of annual conference next May, just call it May 31st roughly, and that's your second option. The paragraph that allows a local church to disaffiliate is numbered 2553, and it expires at the end of next year. So that after May of next year, there's no clear pathway that allows for a local church to disaffiliate. Some have speculated that General Conference, which meets in 2024, might extend the pathway somehow, but there's no guarantee of that. The third question, what's the role of doctrine in the life of our church? Well, our church has doctrine and doctrinal standards found in parts 3 and 5 of our Book of Discipline, including our social principles. And when our church issues its teaching, that doctrine then plays out in our discipline. In other words, when we have certain beliefs, we then set up rules to follow those beliefs. Think about our teaching about segregation and racism. Our church, on the basis of biblical authority, is opposed to racism, and we came years ago to oppose segregation. We've now written rules that say people of all races are welcome at every one of our churches, and we will not have segregated congregations or annual conferences. Well, in the same way, with regard to human sexuality, our church has taught for 50 years 2 things that are held in tension. On the one hand, the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching. And secondly, the gay and lesbian people are welcome in our congregations and deserve our ministries. They are people of sacred worth. That's our doctrine, and we have rules that show how we live with that. If the doctrine of the United Methodist Church changes over time, you can expect that a number of connectional functions will follow the new doctrine, whatever it is. That covers ordination of clergy, appointment of clergy, accountability of clergy, and other practices that we have. What are your options as a local church? Well, I want to talk about 4 categories of options. One that I am strongly opposed to, one that I'm neutral on, and 2 that I think are just fine. The one I'm strongly opposed to is for churches to become independent or non-denominational. Quite frankly, I think that every local church, for its own health and well-being, ought to belong to a denomination. Partly, that's a way of living out Jesus' prayer that all of his disciples would be one. But from a practical point of view, congregations need a network of other local churches for accountability, for shared mission, for many other functions that denominations form. Just recently, I've had a podcast where a famous Presbyterian minister, Tim Keller, is talking about the failure of a non-denominational church called Mars Hill, where he said the problem was Mars Hill didn't have any accountability structure when their pastor started misbehaving. Friends, going independent is not a good idea over the long haul. The second option is for a local church to affiliate with another denomination. Here in the Texas Conference, we've had one church go into the United Church of Christ, another one go into the Free Methodist Church. Those are both options. There are other options. You could join the Episcopal Church or the Nazarene Church or the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I'm neutral on these. At least it's belonging to a denomination, but you have to figure out, will they take you? And do you want to belong to them? It takes a lot of research to figure out if that's really where you best fit. The two options that I think are just fine. One of them is to join the Global Methodist Church. Starting May 1st, a group of United Methodists decided that they wanted to form a new expression of the Methodist movement. They adopted a mission statement to make disciples of Jesus Christ who worship passionately, love extravagantly, and witness boldly. You'll hear more about the Global Methodist Church in a video in a few minutes, but basically you can think of it as a traditional expression of Methodism, keeping our current doctrine, especially on human sexuality questions. And quite frankly, there are some upsides. There's something exciting about creating something new. There are some downsides. There's something really risky and threatening about creating something new. I was a pastor for 11 years. I ran into a number of couples who were building their own home. They said to me, "Preacher, we ain't never doing that again." We got into more arguments about details and more conflict over whether to spend money or not. This whole process of building your own home looked exciting before we started, but we're not doing that ever again. Well, friends, being part of a new expression of the church has a lot of upsides and risk, but also a lot of downsides that needs to be weighed very carefully. It's also a good idea to remain in the United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church it's going to continue its mission statement to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. It will still use the cross and flame. You will still belong to the Texas Annual Conference. There will still be a bishop in Houston. There will be all these familiar things, district superintendents and a pool of clergy. There will be a lot of similarities. However, I believe that the United Methodist Church over the next several years will move in a progressive direction. I do not know how far or how fast, but that seems to be the direction things are going. And again, there's a lot of uncertainty about that, but I think God needs a more progressive expression of Methodism, and the United Methodist Church appears to be fulfilling that function. At the same time, the leaders who are leading in that direction have been crystal clear that they want the United Methodist Church to continue to be a good, hospitable, and effective place for traditionalist United Methodists to remain. They're clear that if you're a conservative, you belong in the United Methodist Church for the long haul. So that when you figure out what does a future look like, there's a great deal of uncertainty that you'll hear about, but at the same time, a lot of opportunity. Some people don't want to change, and continuing in the United Methodist Church looks like a good option. Last, how is all of this going to work out? Friends, I believe that the Texas Annual Conference will continue to act with grace. We have been focused for several years on helping each local church and each clergy person to find where they can best serve Christ and help them get there. We are being as gracious and generous as the Book of Discipline allows You'll hear the details of that today, but trust me, our attitude is we want to help your church find its best place. That requires discernment. It's not a knee-jerk kind of thing. Instead, you need to pray. You need to gather information. You need to talk to each other in your local church. This needs to be a period of discernment. That's a holy process. It needs to be genuine discernment. You shouldn't be operating off of bad information. You ought to be checking it out. Now, we're giving you accurate information as a conference. Our conference website has good quality information. On the other hand, you can go in a lot of other places on the internet and find various passionate people saying things that they think are important, and you can evaluate how accurate they are or how biased or unbiased they are. But there's another part of this that's important is discernment. I strongly recommend, and those of you who have heard me speak before will not be surprised by this, that you read John Wesley again, or maybe for the first time. Go online and find his sermon, Catholic Spirit. In Catholic Spirit, Wesley says it's inevitable that Christians will have disagreements about matters of opinion. And he puts it this way: though we cannot think alike, may we not love alike? May we not be of one heart, though we are not of one opinion? Without all doubt, we may. Friends, these are tough times. Did I tell you it's breaking my heart? These are not going to be easy conversations. And yet, my expectation of all United Methodist Christians is that they have read Wesley or imbibed him in their heart so that they're going to love each other and respect each other all the way through this process. Please, God, may it be so.
How are you this evening? And bear with me because I really don't remember what these slides looked like on Friday. So much has happened since Friday. Okay, so after our last town hall, we did a summary of some of the questions, some of the points that were made, lack of accountability with apportionments, of course, human sexuality, continued conflict in the church, and owning our own assets, increased collaboration on pastoral assignments, and less bureaucracy. And then why disaffiliate or why make a decision now? So these are some options. Where did we get this information from? Yeah, in the Book of Discipline. Oh, it's the next slide. Okay, never mind. But these are why a church would make a decision now. Okay, so this is our timeline for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to have a town hall. You're here. On Wednesday nights, we have our prayer time that Becky Aldridge is leading from 6 to 6:30 in the library. But you can also come and speak to Vision Team, Board of Stewards. Just if you have any other questions during the week and you'd like to come talk to them. Next week, we have a town hall on the 16th with Jerry House from Christ Church. He is one of their global Methodist leaders, and we're also going to take another straw poll. And then on the 19th, which would be the next Wednesday, of course, we'll have Q&A again and prayer time from 6 to 6:30. And each Sunday also, it is going to be at 5 o'clock. And then these, if we do decide to take a vote at some point, these would be our voting guidelines that our church would require as far as membership. The first official vote we can take, if we choose to do so, is on November 6th, and that will be our church-wide meeting that we have. I believe, who will be here, Pastor Paul? The district superintendent, yes. And then if you choose to wait, you can vote in 2023, but you just have to do it before March. I forget the day. March something. Yeah. Well, is it May 31st when they approve it, or that's our... Yeah, we have to do it by April to be approved on May 31st. You know, of course, if we do decide to vote, we have to decide which denomination or where we want to go. Listed here, there's the Global Methodist Church, there's the Free Methodist Church, there's the Wesleyan Church, are all options that some United Methodists have leaned towards. And we're hoping to provide you information on all of these, so you can see the pros, cons, differences. It's just the Global Methodist is, I guess, the most similar to what we are used to, other than just a handful of items. And so what do we do now? We're going to pray. We're going to talk with our family and friends. And with this point, I encourage you to talk to your family and friends about this, because as I've talked to people, they are getting misinformation from other people, other churches. You know, what we are presenting to you as far as documentation in these town halls, in these Q&As, those are facts that we have all, you know, researched, learned, have been given to us. You know, we would like the correct information to be presented. So that's very important to us. So if you do talk to your family and friends, and, you know, they say, well, I heard, you know, and it's completely wrong, you can hopefully correct the issue. Consider, you know, hosting a small group in your home to discuss this matter. It is, you know, it is a big decision. It is an important matter in the life of our church. Of course, Sunday nights we'll be here at 5, and then 6 to 7 on Wednesday nights. And then please make it a point to be at the town halls and invite our other members, your friends. Get them to come to our town hall meetings, because these straw polls help us decide as a board of stewards where our church is leaning, what you want us to do. I mean, we're taking the information from you to make that decision, and so we need as much feedback as possible. So it's very important that we have people here for the straw polls. Is any questions while I'm up here? Yes, ma'am.
So we shouldn't put our email on there?
No.
I mean, my email has my name on it.
Well, that's only if you
If you have
select the
questions.
option that you have more questions.
Okay.
Not that this is my decision and this is your email. We're just wanting your email to provide you more information on a specific question.
Anybody else have a question? we're using the mic, so that, okay.
I just want to make a comment that I found originally a little confusing. And Bishop Jones kind of, to a degree, reiterated it in his talk up there. He said, the global church will be your more traditional expression, where UMC will move in a progressive expression. And so it tends to make me feel it's the opposite of what we would have thought, and that UMC would have been the more traditional, and the global would have been the opposite. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind. And it came out of his mouth up there today.
Yes, ma'am.
It was kind of hard to read that stuff, Monica. You were doing your best to let us read it. It's kind of hard to see. Would it be possible just to go back to the first 2 slides?
Sure.
It was a lot
sure.
of information.
And we can have this emailed out.
I was just trying to reread it, and it was
Yeah.
kind of fast. Sorry.
So the defining
you.
issues of people leaving the United Methodist Church were lack of accountability. Overriding number one issue discussed in our church was the lack of accountability with apportionments, human sexuality, the continued conflict in the church of owning our assets, and increased collaboration on pastoral assignments and less bureaucracy. And this one is just a section of the Book of Discipline, which is 2553 that you keep hearing us talk about, that because of the current deep conflict within the United Methodist Church around issues of human sexuality, a local church shall have a limited right under the provisions of this paragraph to disaffiliate, which expires on December 31st of 2023. It takes a 2/3 majority vote of the professing members. The gracious terms from the bishop that we just watched, he will be retiring in December of this year. The cost, the payment of unpaid apportionments, which for us would be zero because we pay our apportionments monthly. Unfunded pension liability, I don't believe we have any of that, right? Here.
Yeah, on the apportionments, it's currently zero. If we voted by November 6th this year, it would go, if we wait until next year, we would have to pay next year's apportionments, which would be $36,000, I think, roughly. The unfunded liabilities, they were supposed to update that around October the 1st, but they say if interest rates are high, then it may remain zero. So right now, like Monica said, if we voted now, we could pretty much get out for nothing. If we wait till next year, it's going to cost us some money. So. The bishop you just saw retires December 31st on this video, and so we don't know who's coming behind him. On that first slide on the apportionments, we probably pay 8 to 11% currently under UMC. GMC has got a cap of 6.5%, and I saw a video where a guy said it could be less, but I would ask Jerry next Sunday. That's going to be one of my questions for Jerry. So.
And then I wanted to, follow up with that real quick. We were watching part of that video that the bishop had, and he continued to talk about not only did we have to vote by November 3rd, but then there was like papers from the tax office and all the stuff, and it had deadlines. Is that going to be discussed tonight, or can it be? Just to let us know the additional information.
If we get out, we have to
Thank you.
change our name. We have to change, our name, and we have to get everything deeded over, like deeds, property deeds, any kind of assets, investments we have through citizens' bank accounts. A lawyer, and Ann's already done some research, and what'd you say, about $1,000 they're doing it? About $1,000 for this. Lawyers are doing these for the churches to get all that switched over. So.
I'm sorry. You have a committee behind you exploring exactly how to do everything, so that if we do decide that we need to vote, that everything's in place, because it's a very short timeline. Our district superintendent actually gave us a couple of extra days. He was very generous to us. That if we did vote, it would be on the 6th of November, which is after the 3rd, clearly. But then that timeline to get all of our paperwork with name changes and submit all of our paperwork is like within 4 or 5 days. So that's why we're trying to work ahead. Thank you to all of the people that are kind of working behind the scenes. If that helps, don't be nervous. We're working on it.
Okay, big question. 2/3 majority vote of the professing members. Now, does that mean, as a member, I can walk in and say, I get to vote, I am professing that I'm a member. There's nothing I have to do to prove that.
I think it showed we'll have to have an ID, and you got to be on the church rolls.
You're going to be on the
membership
church rolls, and you have to present an ID. I mean,
Okay, the church list that I have a copy of, I've saved forever. Some are dead. My husband's on there, he's not a member. I mean, where's this magic list?
so Dina, we're working on that to identify. There's some people actually talking to former ministers and helping us identify. There is a process. Michael can find anything. There is a process to clean up your rolls. No pressure. And there are guidelines in the Book of Discipline to do so. So I don't think it's so much as having the people that are dead removed. I mean, you know, they're not going to show up and vote. But we do want to make sure that the people who do vote are actually members of the church, right? And not somebody that's just off the streets or from another church. And, you know, how do I say this? There have been some circumstances in other churches where people have tried to fraudulently vote. So who would imagine?
Unlike our nation.
That's part of the reason that it's important that the people that we see every Sunday verify your membership with Laura in the office and show up to vote and make sure that people know that they need to bring a picture ID. And I mean, this is serious business for the future of the church. I can't think of a more serious issue that we voted on ever. So,
And I believe if you're confirmed in the church, you become a professing member.
that is correct.
Right. So some of our members are going to be 16, 18.
If they choose to vote.
If they choose to vote.
12.
So you remain a member of this church until you either transfer your membership or,
That's it.
yeah, until you either pass away or you transfer your membership.
So Jody asked another question. What if you live out of state? You have to be present. There's no call-in. There's no absentee vote. You have to be present on the evening of the 6th. So if it's important for you to get your vote out, please clean your calendar. And if we decide that we need to have a vote, then it would be that night. Is that?
Why have we waited so long to start this process when other churches started it long ago?
So the question is, here's the answer. The answer is that previous boards began studying this in 18 and 19. We created what's his name? Wayne created a committee called the Vision Committee, and we studied a book together. We studied with that current board. Michael and I had rolled off of the first board, and it was the second board that we gathered with. Anita, I think we probably got caught in a pastoral change. Really, the impetus did not get started until early part of the summer, where everybody started really working on it. And of course, our pastors changed at the end of June and July. So the board has really gotten on board very quickly. with the deal, they meet with us very regularly, those of us who've been studying the issue for a long time. I'm very grateful that Wayne had us start discussing this early on and read a book together. We may have been slightly behind the curve, but I think that we're right on, we're on the right
We've got
timeline
time.
now.
We do have time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the question I have, the 2/3 majority vote, is that for the 2/3 of the actual voters? Or is
Yes.
that 2/3 of the membership?
No.
Whoever shows up that day. So if we got 100 people,
Yeah, I know that, but, it said 2/3 of your professing members.
Who are present.
Who are present? Okay.
on, my parents' church, so they've just completed this process, so I've kind of, learned through them. And texting back and forth with her the other day, when they went through their vote, she said pre-COVID they probably had 85 members actively attending church. She said after COVID they probably had in the 50s, and they had 57 people vote. She said there wasn't anybody there voted on other than who had been regularly attending church for 2 months. So there wasn't anybody that tried to come in and vote. She said regular old people that come to church every day is the ones that came and voted. So.
Yeah, there's people in our church who haven't been here in a month or two, or who don't regularly look at our emails, who have no idea that this is even going on.
That's why we'd like for you to visit with everybody who's a member of the church and let them know what's going on. And point them to our website, which is where we try to upload all of the materials so that you have a place to say, hey, go look at the website. Other questions?
Any other questions?
If someone doesn't have an email or anything, come to the office. We can have it all printed out. We have these packages up here and down in the fellowship hall still, or we're happy to mail them to people as well. We'll get the information to you, or to, if you know other members, like you were saying, we'll work our very best to get all. They've done a great job putting all the information out there.
And I don't know that the United Methodist Church does this, but what if you have a church way out in the boonies and they start having to drop more and more of their care because they don't have the funds? Does in any way the United Methodist, do they take care of them? Do they offer help to them?
I believe he said they do. Did he say that the other night?
So
Paul?
there
I
are
don't
some
remember.
connectional benefits, but I think that's a one-by-one decision. Does that make sense? I don't think that there's any policy
I
for
think
that.
Kip talked about that a little bit.
There's a
think they did.
connectional benefit that sometimes bigger churches can help support smaller churches.
So the Global will continue doing that?
I'm going to highly encourage y'all write down those questions and come when Jerry comes. Ann talked to a lot of people about who to who from the GMC, and everybody told her to go to talk to Jerry. And so, any questions y'all can think of, I would highly recommend y'all coming back next Sunday at 5 and writing those down, because
Okay.
So one of
he's
the
going to be
things,
one of the leaders. It's going to come right straight from,
So
hear
one of
right
the-
straight from them.
one of the things that I've read is that since we don't have to pay, or we wouldn't have to pay so much in apportionments, that extra cash could be put in places where there was need. I do think that there is a large desire for Global Methodists to walk alongside the United Methodists and work together separately, but doing the same thing. So I think that might, if the Global Church did not provide those connectional benefits, that would be an option for your local church to consider. Does that make sense?
The goal The goal of the lower apportionments, from what I've read, is so the money can stay in the local church to contribute toward their missions.
Okay, we have a lot of regular attendees who have not joined the church, have not become members. I know this situation has been mentioned, but I don't think they've been attending the town hall meetings, have they? Only the members have been. Do we need to encourage them to attend the town hall meetings? Because I think there's quite a few regular attendees that they cannot vote, but I don't know, they may want to join and cast their vote, right?
Yeah, you have to be on the membership roll, correct? Yeah. Yeah, if you have a question if someone is a member or not, Pastor Paul and Laura have our membership registry, a current one, and we're actually about to start going through that, and hopefully, I believe, like
Working on it
to get some of the, like if they've passed on, removing them from the roll, I believe. Do we need volunteers? That's y'all's call.
If y'all get a call from Miss Laverne, just be sure and answer right. Any other questions?
And I just wanted to say too, just from a side note from all of us on the Board of Steward and Vision team, I've gotten phone calls, left voicemails, I get text messages, we get emails. Between the two groups, we're probably getting 20, maybe sometimes 30 emails a day going back and forth about all the happenings that are happening regarding this issue, regarding making decisions, approvals, things like that. So if we haven't gotten back with you, our apologies. Like we're trying. We're gonna get back to you. We hear you. It's just right now we're being bombarded with a lot of information, and we're trying to get it out to you guys as quickly as possible because it's changing daily, some of it.
Part of the thing that I think is really important for that next meeting next Sunday is to encourage as many as can to come. Jerry House was my pastor at Christ United Methodist. When I lived in College Station, I made the walk from the elementary to forming that church. He is from a long history of Methodism, and I am very excited that he is coming to speak to us, because the fact that they disaffiliated speaks volumes to me, like to what made him make that decision. And I think he's going to be very upfront and honest, and we can get a wealth of information from him. And he's been there as long as that church has been. So just encourage that, to tell your friends to come.
I wanted to tell you about another resource that I was just given too, and I've been watching it for a while before I shared it with you, but because I wanted to see what it's about first. So my home church back in Marlin that Kevin and I got married in, they just went through this process, and his sister is on their board of stewards, and she's just been sharing information with me. But for those of you that do Facebook, if you do want to learn more about the Global Methodist, their Facebook page, I believe, is Friends of Global Methodist something, I forget.
Friends at the GMC.
Or no, it's spelled out, Friends of Global. They may have two, but it's just questions like you're asking right now. There are a lot of those questions being answered on there, so you might find that helpful. But again, I would strongly suggest you ask those questions to Reverend House on next Sunday, or if you want to put them in our box and we can have those questions here if you're not available. Also, we are recording that next Sunday, so if someone cannot be here and they would like to watch it, any of these town halls are being recorded and uploaded to our website. So whether they're here or not, they can see and hear what we're discussing.
Is that what you're talking about? Get the church office will get you stuff in writing. If y'all know people who don't get emails or they don't do the phone, internet stuff, y'all call Laura and we'll get stuff in writing. Kind of piggyback off what Monica was saying on the Facebook thing. Laura loaded on there there's an Eastern Texas Conference for Global Methodist website loaded on our website somewhere. And if you go click on that, it tells you a lot of information, and then I think it links some of the Facebook pages. And it's got a map of all of our neighbors who have done that. And I'd been asked to read some responses here. Some of our neighboring churches, why are we feeling the urgency to leave Franklin? Church in Franklin said they feel strongly about the authority of Scripture to hold on to traditional Wesleyan teachings without conflict. Once covenant was broken and no corrective action was taken, all trust was gone in the UMC. Cameron, there is a window of opportunity that's expiring. Actually, the bishop invited us to leave on an amicable basis, and they asked themselves, what does the extra time buy us? They didn't see any advantage in staying, but saw advantages of leaving. And Christ originally began was through a lay member, not a current leadership, who saw the situation growing worse since 2019. He spoke with the pastor and told him the time was right now. That happened around Memorial Day, and they began their discernment period in July of 31, and they voted to leave in September. They realized the continued conflict wasn't helping ministry and not Christ-like. Gracious terms from the Texas Annual Conference and the bishop who oversees the terms and retiring in December 22. And I think all three of those are in the 90 percentile that disaffiliated, so all three of those churches. So I think Cooks Point, Hearn, Franklin, Gauze, Rockdale, Cameron, a bunch of our neighboring churches have all, if you go on those websites, that's all that's on there. So
This is my first meeting. I have been out of town and things came up, but I will not miss another one. I will circle that 6 on my calendar. But the way I look at we didn't leave the United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church are leaving us. They are making the changes. In here, I've been reading in this too, and I was listening to the little thing. It has in here that will probably change. Now that's abortion will probably likely to be changed. Human sexuality likely to be changed. Homosexuality likely to be changed. Marriage likely to be changed. So we're not changing, they are changing. So I think this is a very important matter that we need to decide now, that we didn't leave them, the United Methodists left us.
I just want to make a statement. I know we're kind of late in the process. I brought this up to a couple of board members about 8 weeks ago, and they said they're on it. And boy, they were on it. I just want to congratulate y'all on the job that y'all have done. Y'all got this process going.
And the vision team.
And y'all have organized this very well.
Well,
And y'all have spent a lot of time meeting once or twice a week, and we really appreciate the effort and the time and the organization that y'all have put in on this process.
well, I just wanted to let you know that from our very first meeting, again, like I told y'all when I stood up here that day, we were kind of blindsided by our board was. But to know that the vision team had been already looking, their help has been incredible. And I will stand by this 110% from the first conversation of our Board of Stewards, we wanted to make sure that our congregation was informed on every side, whether we agreed with it or not. You deserve, as our congregation, to know every fact. This fact, the good facts, the bad facts, the ugly facts. Because this is not our decision, this is our congregation's decision. And it's a decision none of us take lightly. We take it very seriously. And we don't want this to turn into a political thing where, Republicans versus Democrats, things like that. We wanted our church. I am actually kind of glad that our church is a little behind the curve. And the reason for that is we have been able to see how some other churches handled this process, what they did wrong, what they did right. And our church, we are trying to be as godly and as Christian-like through this process as possible, because it's not a time for argument, and you have to search in your soul and your heart, and everybody here has a voice. We wanted to give everyone the correct information, because again, I will state that there is a lot of incorrect information that people are talking about. We wanted to inform you with the correct information, unbiased information, and we don't want to sway you one way or the other. We want you, the congregation, to tell us what you want us to do.
Thank you. So at the end of the last town hall, there were, 10 or so questions about, can you get us somebody from the Global Methodist Church? There were some people who thought that maybe the presenter from the United Methodist Church was a little biased on some issues. I have an imagination that Jerry is going to be pretty pro-Global Methodist. And so really, next Sunday is going to be that representation to you. I don't want you to be disappointed thinking that you're going to get something neutral. And that was part of our assessment after the first town hall, is how neutral was it? How unbiased was it? And there were some people who thought that Kip's answers were difficult to understand, and that maybe there were some hedges on some particular issues. So that's why we continue to put some of the basic information in front of you, and encourage you to kind of read on your own. But I just know that as we enter into to learn about the Global Methodist Church, Jerry's going to make that presentation, and I don't want anybody to come over here in a fashion thinking that it's going to be a very balanced situation. It's our time to ask about what's good about the Global Methodist, what's not good about the Global Methodist. So I just wanted to be really, in the spirit of transparency, I wanted to be transparent about that.
We're showing both sides. That is our goal, is to show you every side, because you may decide after you talk to or hear Jerry, oh, that's not what we want at all, and you could completely change your decision, or you could decide, that's why we have to give you every option.
Y'all want to pray one more time before you leave? Oh, that's you. Sorry.
Closing remarks. I've talked to several of the, and I'm excusing myself out of this, elderly people, how important that it is that they come. And I've stressed to several of them how important, and oh, we'll be there. None of them are here. Except, I'm sorry, Ina. But you don't fit in that. Okay, but what I'm saying is, we tell them about it, and they say, oh yeah, I'll be there and all that, and then they don't show up. So we do the best we can, but you know, we can't drag them up here and all that, but there is an issue that they don't come, and that goes back to the time that we host revivals. Okay, we have hosted huge revivals. The place is packed. Look around, and there's hardly any members from this church there. And that's embarrassing. Here we are, the hostess. All these denominations are here for the revival, and there's a handful of Methodists sitting there. So I can't tell you what else we can do other than the best that we can.
We're going to host a revival when we take the vote. In a sense, it kind of would be a revival depending on the vote, right?
One thing I forgot to mention a while ago, Laura has agreed if somebody can't do videos, if they wanted to come to the church office, she could put them in the conference room and show videos down here. So that pass that word if somebody doesn't have technology.
And just know that there's a lot of people here in the younger church, you know, the younger people in our church who are not here either. And again, they don't even know what's going on, and that breaks my heart because that is such a important decision in our church right now. And I mean, we just have to spread the word. I don't know. We're at a loss at what we do. So.
Did everybody get a ballot? Did we miss some? Raise your hand in the back there. Okay.
Sorry, people, I don't know what else to do.
And this is just something I just thought of. If any of you, once we kind of get our list narrowed down on I mean, we've talked about making phone calls to members and things like that. I don't know. If anybody has time and wants to volunteer, please get with us and we'll see what we can do. It's a lot of stuff to do in a short amount of time, and when I tell y'all we're overwhelmed with some of this, y'all just please pray for us. It is a lot. It is a lot right now. When they asked me to be on the board of stewards, nobody signed me up for this. And like this shirt right here is my day every day. So please, y'all just pray for me if you're not praying for anybody else.
So I guess we're ready for closing remarks, which I think pretty much has already been gone over. What?
If you're in the board or the vision team, can you stand up just really quick so we can get a good eyeball on you? There we go. Those are the people you go to with your comments, concerns, and questions.
So closing remarks, Town Hall number 3, we've talked about that. Jerry House will be here from Christ Church to present information for the Global Methodist Church. We will have Wednesday night gatherings in the library as well as the sanctuary. In the library will be prayer time. In the sanctuary will be additional question and answer time. If you're interested in hosting a small group meeting in your home, you can contact Laura in the church office and she will help schedule a board member or a vision team member to help facilitate that meeting, okay, if you guys decide you would like that in your home. If you want to receive emails and or remind notifications for up-to-the-minute information, and Laura's been sending those out quite regularly during the week, please let Laura know that in the church, that you want to be part of the remind. Resource tables are in the hallways. They've got those manila folders with packets of information in it. There's also the index cards that you guys can write questions. Just either put them in the offering plates when they come around or turn them in at the office, and we'll answer those questions as quickly as possible. And be sure and check for those answers. Some of the ones that we've already received have been put on the website. The questions, and the answers are on the website. So be sure and check the Caldwell Church website. There's lots of information there. And don't forget to put your ballot, there's a ballot box right there in this corner before you leave. And if you want to request a one-to-one meeting, you can speak with one of the board members or with Pastor Paul, either one. You know, all of us are available. Is there anything else you guys need at this point, off the top of your head? Okay. Thank you to Pastor, oh, wait, Andrew. Yes, there will be an additional straw poll, and it is a straw poll. You know, this is not a binding ballot that you're casting, right? 5 o'clock next Sunday, right here. Be here or be square, exactly. Thank you, Pastor Paul, and board members and vision team members, and I'm going to pass the baton to Scott and let him pray us out.
If you'll bow your heads. Dear God, we thank you so much for giving us a place to worship and having the congregation that we do. We thank you for the words and for the life of your Son so that we would know how to live. We ask that you guide us through not our only day-to-day lives, but also this process, and watch over each and every one, and give them the energy and just the want to be up here to cast their ballot, to show its importance. And we ask that whichever way we fall, Lord, that it be your way, and that we walk a little closer to you, and that your will be done. We want to continue to worship you in this beautiful, beautiful chapel that we have, and we ask that we be as accepting to others as is allowed, and just that you watch over each